Lance, lovely to see you. Welcome.
Hey Tom, lovely to see you and everybody. But I'm going to read what I read last Sunday, because I do have a small question. It's one of those questions that kind of floats in the back of your mind, and I thought I would ask it. I'm just going to read 234. Last week I read 233 and 234. I'm just going to read 234 today.
Could you, I know what you're going to, but could you remind everybody the text you're reading from, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's Sri Guru Ramana Prasadam. In the shining forth of my own self, bondage and liberation disappeared, being revealed as mere concepts, the sports of wondrous Maya. Mind, will, and intellect became clear, free of the ghost-like ego, and merged with grace, the supreme consciousness. And it's a beautiful verse. I almost feel embarrassed to ask a question after it. Um,
Go for it. Go for it.
okay. So here's my question. He describes Maya in different ways. Sometimes mischievous. Um, Often you speak of Maya being a liar, Maya being the devil. Um, I had a dream last night, Tom, and you said all Maya is a sin. It's all a sin, which I think is interesting. It was in a dream. Um, but I guess the question that's been in the back of my mind for a long time is, um, for the jiva, um, is there a way to look at Maya? Is it best to look at it in a neutral way? Sometimes I take pictures of flowers and share them with friends on social media, and I think, oh, that's just celebrating Maya. Um, I think it's funny that he calls it wondrous, wondrous Maya, the sport of wondrous Maya. So he's also calling it kind of a game. And I think for me, lately, I've been thinking of Maya as, in a neutral way, not worrying about it if I like Maya or dislike Maya. But I think again, it's just a question that's been floating in my mind.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you. It's such a beautiful verse. I do find it hard to speak after you've read it to us. There's a power with these verses, I find. There's a power beyond the words. Even if you don't understand what the verse is talking about, there's just something there. And with this text, it's very strong. And I think when someone here reads a verse that they connect with, it it magnifies that power, or it allows that power to come through, that transmission to come through. How should the jiva, your question, Lance, how should the jiva best look at Maya? Well, I hope you don't mind me saying. Best thing is for jiva not to look at Maya. You know that conceptually, at least. There's no, there is no best way for how to look at Maya that works for everyone in all places and at all times. Michael Langford has suggested the loving all method, you see. That's one way of doing it. We have so many different ways we can look at Maya. We have the Shristi Dristi teachings, which are situated in the materialistic paradigm of if you think you're a person, a body mind entity living in a world or a universe which is real and around you, and you're this small body mind entity, that's the materialistic paradigm, the common everyday way we think of ourselves. And in Sanskrit, this is called Shristi Dristi Vada, the view that material creation came first and consciousness evolved within it. It's an emergent phenomena of the physical universe from matter. Consciousness, matter first, consciousness second. Shristi first, Dristi second. Shristi Dristi. Vada means viewpoint or theory or something like this. Is the view that matter comes first and consciousness comes second. Matter is primary, consciousness secondary. In this paradigm, you can have a view that, again, lots of different views. You can view that some people believe in God, and you can say, well, give yourself to God, or God is doing everything. Thy will be done, His will be done, God's will be done. This is a nice way of this is a nice way of seeing for the jiva to view Maya from the Shristi Dristi point of view. Or you can say, I feel grateful for everything that I have, or everything good I have, or let me find things I feel grateful for in my life and have gratitude. And maybe that will evolve to gratitude for everything's happening, whether or not, irrespective of whether it's judged as deemed as being good or bad. Or we can have metta, loving kindness, or loving all method, as, as Michael Langford suggests to us. What has any of this got to do with us? Is any of this true? Can we say anything that is definitive about Maya, whose nature is change, illusion, being fickle, deception? And who are you? What are you? Where is happiness, security, refuge, solidity? Where are these to be found? Only in yourself. And then sometimes you'll have a dristi shristi view. Dristi shristi means consciousness comes first, and then matter is an emergent phenomena that arises in the consciousness. Dristi shristi. Dristi means seeing, shristi means matter or creation. So seeing here means consciousness. Dristi shristi. Then another view is everything is arising within my consciousness. This is another way the jiva. There's another answer to Lance's question. So everything is arising in my consciousness as consciousness. My consciousness is the screen, and everything's all the objects are the movie that's playing on the screen, the cinema screen. And you can go one step further. You can say everything I am consciousness, and everything that arises within me as consciousness is an illusion. It's not real. Let's go one step further. Maybe initially you think it's all real, and then later you think it's not real. You say, I am the consciousness, I am the witness. Everything's happening, it doesn't affect me. Maybe this is another way of doing it. This is more like this is going towards a jnana yoga attitude. If before we were talking more of karma yoga, maybe bhakti yoga, bhakti karma yoga, now we're going more to jnana yoga attitude, which is linked with dristi shristi. Well, you can say it's all a dream. All of this is a dream. This is jnana yoga. You find this view in texts like Yoga Vasishtha, whereas texts like Bhagavad Gita tend to be more Shristi Dristi teachings for the most part. In my Bhagavad Gita, it's more accessible for the masses because the masses, most people, have a Shristi Dristi paradigm, materialistic paradigm. And then fewer people have a spiritual paradigm. That spirit comes first, and creation is just a manifestation of our own spirit or consciousness. Dristi Shristi Vada. Consciousness is primary. But by the way, excuse me, when Lance said, mentioned that all of Maya is sin, this is what I came to him in his dream and told him, which is true. Everything in Maya is sin. Sin means error, ignorance, misperception, something that's wrong. Wrong not in the moral sense, but in the literal sense. No, it's incorrect. It's not true. If you say 2 plus 2 equals 5, we can say that is wrong. We're not judging you morally, ethically. We're just stating a fact. We're saying that if you say 2 plus 2 equals 5, I'm going to put a big cross next to that because I'm going to mark that wrong, incorrect, false, not true. If you say 2 plus 2 equals 4, I'll say that's true. You get a tick. So all of Maya is wrong. It's sin. It's not true. It's not the truth. It's incorrect. It's false. It's illusion. It's delusion. All these words, it's hallucination. Yeah, if you think 2 plus 2 equals 5, that's ignorance. You don't know the truth. That's delusion. That's a hallucination. All these words, that's false. That's incorrect. That's wrong. That's sin. We can use the word sin. It's wrong. Incorrect. You see the difference? We're not judging with it's a factual statement. So, or we can say it's a mistake. That's another one we can say. 2 plus 2 equals 5. That's a mistake. Sin is a mistake. You've missed the truth. Some people say sin means missing the mark, from archery. Sin was when you missed the target, missed the mark. You think 2 plus 2 equals 5? That's an error. It's another word, error. So if all of Maya is sin, what was the first sin? Because what we discover is that there was one primary sin from which all the other sins arose. And we can call this the primary sin, the primordial sin. And of course, we can call it original sin. The origin means the beginning. Original means the one that was there at the beginning. It means the primary, the first. Just as ultimate means the last. Original means the first. We think original tends to mean, oh, if someone's very original, that means they're different to everyone else. You know, that's an original haircut. Never seen it, never seen that haircut before. What that means it's the first of its kind, you see. You say, oh, so that's very original. It's an original haircut. It means you haven't seen it before. It's the first of its kind. It's the origin of that trend or that style. This is how the meaning of the words developed, I think. What is the original sin? The original sin is the I thought, the I am the body mind idea, sense that I am a person. If we investigate this I thought by going to our true self, if we pursue this self, we discover what we truly are. That's the best thing for the jiva to do. For the attention, attention is the jiva. So what should the attention go towards? It's the self. So we have some, just answering Lance's questions, we've got some views from the Shristi Dristi level and some views from the Dristi Shristi level. And then the third level is Ajata. Ajata Vada, there's a view of Ajata, which is a conceptual view, which is not the same as actual Ajata, which is self-realization. And the Ajata Vada, Vada means the view of Ajata, is that none of this is even here. So there's a teaching of Ajata. There's a view of Ajata, which is a teaching. And there's actual Ajata, which is beyond any possibility of teaching. Unless we go to Ajata, which means no birth or no creation or no objects, also known as Nirvikalpa, which means no objects, also known as Nirguna, which means no objects or no gunas. No, gunas are the three gunas are the things that constitute Maya. Tamas, Rajas, Sattva are the three aspects of Maya. Objectless, also known as pure. And so another way the jiva can view the world is say, well, none of this is real. It never actually happened. And then it doesn't matter whether you think matter is primary or consciousness is primary. It doesn't matter about shristi, dristi, dristi, shristi. You say dristi, shristi, shristi, dristi, all this stuff. You just say, well, none of this has ever happened. This is another way you can view. The jiva can view all of Maya. And which view should you have? Well, you can hopefully you can see that all these views are good in some situations and problematic in others. They all have their pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages. They all have their advantages and their limitations. And it's impossible to prescribe which one you should adopt. But most of you, once you get a sense for these views, you will start to pick and mix. You will start to chop and choose. Sometimes you'll surrender to God. That means you're identifying as a body mind in a world and you're surrendering, which means you're on the Shristi Dristi level. You're conceiving of a power greater than you, surrendering to that power. That's fine. Other times you'll be saying everything that appears is arising in my consciousness, but is not me, or something like this. Now you're doing a Dristi Shristi type teaching. But other times it might be very satisfying to say none of this is even happening and none of this has ever happened. For other people, that could be very scary and not recommended. But best of all is none of these. We just go towards ourselves and we don't have to worry about any of this stuff. But practically, all of these are useful. So that's a rather lengthy answer to what may have been quite a simple question, but hopefully it's relatively thorough. And what you'll see essentially is we have the four yogas, you know, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga. Raja yoga is when we turn within towards the self. Jnana yoga is when you say I am consciousness. The true jnana yoga is when you turn in towards the self. The higher jnana yoga is when you turn in towards the self. The bhakti yoga is when you say you love God and you surrender to God. But the higher bhakti yoga is when you be still in your heart with Bhagavan, which is turning in towards the self. And karma yoga is when you say, well, I just try my best and whatever comes to me, it comes, you know. I can't control the outcome of my actions. All I can do is my best. And I will do it with an attitude of happiness and gladness in my heart. That can be Shristi Dristi or Dristi Shristi, depending on where you're at. Maybe this is confusing, I don't know. If it is confusing, have a listen to this it's been recorded so you can listen to it again and make sense of it. There are a few other things we could drop in there as well about the three gunas, etc., etc. Then there's the more mundane stuff, like what do I do in the world? What kind, basic actions. And then the answer is be a good person, do your duty, do, be a responsible, ethical, kind person. Be good to the body, be good to the mind, be good to the world, be good to other body minds as much as you're able to. And my recommendation, if you're a spiritual seeker, is fit in with society as much as you can. Keep your head down, it will help you spiritually. Don't be a crusader for some cause, because that's not going to help you spiritually, but this is a guideline. Guideline means it's not a rule. This means there are plenty of exceptions. You might find yourself in a situation where you have to um, rebel in some way, and that's fine too. You have to follow your own path. Have I answered your question, Lance? And you're welcome to say I haven't.
Oh, you absolutely had. That was beautiful. It was very generous. I think the only thing that came to mind was, and I think this is just a version, but where would disgust with Maya be? Exhaustion with Maya, where would that fit in?
And what do you mean? Where would that fit in?
Well, I know in Buddhism, it can be helpful. There's a practice to go to the where corpses are being burned, and meditate on
Oh,
the
I see. So
but
in terms of a view of
yeah,
Maya, we can have a love for Maya as a view. We can
right,
have
right.
disgust for Maya as a view. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that arises spontaneously, of course.
Well, that yes, of course. Through pain, through suffering, through, various heinous things happening in our lives, maybe. So disgust with Maya. Why does this, if we can phrase it this way, why might this be useful to us, Lance? Why might disgust with Maya be useful to us?
It's been useful for me because um, I've shared before that I went from tamas, depression, to rajas, to being depressed and hating the world, to becoming rajas and loving the world and getting involved in a lot of things, and then getting exhausted by all of it, getting exhausted by achieving things, getting exhausted by a very blessed life and very charmed life. But people die and people get sick, and
And how might
it's
disgust for Maya be helpful for a spiritual seeker?
oh well, simply because it helps you turn away.
It helps you turn away from
Yeah, Maya.
Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maya is objects. Yeah. Maya is objects, anything that appears, phenomena arising phenomena, the thoughts, feelings, sensations, so-called physical objects. You know. So, what did I say the very best thing for the jiva to do it was?
To turn towards the self.
Yeah. And see, your question was, what is the best way to view Maya? And I said the best thing is not to view Maya. That's the very best thing. And obviously that wasn't the question you were asking. So if you view Maya with disgust, then it will help you do the very best thing, which is turn away from Maya. There are also teachings where we view certain aspects of Maya with disgust. So for example, and this is not sort of socially very acceptable these days, a lot of these sorts of teachings. But if you're a spiritual seeker, they can be helpful to you. So to look at disgust, look at the body with disgust, for example. To there's a long tradition of this, and it's not about self-hatred, which is how it's often interpreted in, basically by the West, if I can use that phrase. It's often interpreted as self-hatred, hatred of the body, hatred of the physical. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to aid turning away, as you said, Lance. Or even hatred specifically of bodies of the opposite sex or the sex that you're attracted to. So if you're attracted to a woman or if you're attracted to a man, to contemplate their body as being foul and disgusting, all the contents of that body. The skin, it might look beautiful when you're looking at the outside of the skin and their hair's all nice and maybe they've got some makeup on or they're very well groomed or whatever, wearing nice clothes. But when you go inside, there's blood. Think about that. Contemplate. There's bone, there's bile, there's feces, there's the gut and the contents of the gut, like food, and there's bacteria and there's cells. Just checking no one's eating as I'm saying this. There's the brain and, and then the eyes. And if you look at, imagine what eyes look like inside, they're not, you know, and your nose and your lungs, and there's mucus and fingernails and toenails and all this stuff, right? So you might see someone, you think, oh, they're so attractive. But when you reduce them to their component parts, you can start to see it as unattractive. And this, again, is not socially very acceptable in the West. It seems like you're degrading and denigrating something beautiful, which is the human body. But the idea of it isn't to denigrate or degrade anyone or the human body. It's to help the spiritual aspirant, the spiritual seeker, turn away from that which is drawing them towards. They might have an attraction, a sexual desire, or a different kind of desire for these things. And it's to help them see through those things. So these teachings can be very helpful in the right context. And the human body is a miracle. It isn't something foul, but thinking of it as something disgusting or foul can be incredibly helpful for some people, depending where they're at. See, looking at Maya as being disgusting can be very helpful, but Maya is very clever. Maya will present herself. Sorry to use the feminine. It's just habit. It's nothing about gender. Maya will present herself as being disgusting sometimes and then being very alluring the next moment. So, but self is always something worthy of love. The self presents herself. I'll use the feminine pronoun for the self as well, just to try and get myself back into your good books in case you didn't like me using feminine for Maya. The self always presents herself as happiness because that is her nature. The self is happiness. Whereas Maya, and I'll use the male pronoun now, Maya, his nature is fickle, change, deceit. See, Maya is usually a feminine word, whereas Satan or the devil is usually masculine. So these are two ways of talking figuratively about the same essential idea. Lance, does that answer your question, or do you have anything else that comes up as we're speaking, or as I'm speaking?
No, it's really helpful. I'm glad I asked. No, very helpful. Because I felt like I needed to choose one, and what I heard in your answer was um, that you can be fluid with these things, you know? So if I'm taking a walk and it's a beautiful sky, I don't have to feel bad about loving how beautiful it is. I can do loving kindness and gratitude and and then in general, when I think about my life, I think many of us here, I'll just speak for myself, there's an exhaustion. And you've said that all our efforts really are the effort to come home. And I'm just really grateful that I know that and I can put my energy there, and I'm still, I'm involved in a project, and it's a lot of work, but it does feel divinely inspired. I feel like Ramana inspired me to do this project. Um, yeah, so thank you. It was really your answer was very generous, and I have a feeling it'll be a YouTube movie at some point in time.
Right. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much, Lance, and thank you to all those people who make those YouTube movies, those YouTube videos. Really appreciate it. It's great to share the teachings. There's so many aspects of the teaching. The more you ask me, the more questions you ask me, the more specific questions you ask me, the more that you'll see all these nuances of the teaching come through. I'm not even aware of them all until you ask me, and then or I'm kind of aware of it all non-verbally, and then and you ask me, it expresses it in words. One thing I hadn't thought about before was how do you share this kind of thing with children? It's because someone asked me about it. And are you going to share with them the Ajata teachings, for example, to a young child? And typically you don't. You're not going to tell a child, oh, by the way, none of this exists. That's not good for the child. What are you going to do? You're going to start. The knowledge is already in me, but I hadn't really thought about it consciously. So then the teachings came, and now I consciously know the answer. Tom consciously knows the answer, which is you tend to start with Shristi Dristi teachings. Give thanks, or pray to God. These sorts of levels. And then maybe when they're older and see how they're developing, you maybe go to if maybe you don't. Because Shristi Dristi itself is a dualistic teaching. It's a very beautiful teaching. And the child or young person may not want to go beyond that. They may not that so you don't want to force a teaching onto someone unless they're looking for it. Because it's not right for them otherwise. And if they're ready, maybe you can go to Dristi Shristi. Say everything's in your consciousness. But for some children, that's inappropriate. And then maybe if they're much more advanced, much more developed and super interested, then you'll share the Ajata teachings. But this is, you know, it's detrimental otherwise. This is why Ajata Vada teachings are not usually spoken of. It's not that any are trying to be secretive. It's just they're not very helpful, and it doesn't go down very well with the public. I have children, so I bring them up. I intuitively, you know, share this with them, but not directly. Sometimes maybe, but they're kids. But I hadn't until someone asked me the question, you don't get the verbal answer doesn't come out. So there's so many nuances in the teaching like this. It's all in here. If you ask, it will make the non-verbal verbal, and then you can have a YouTube video. Thank you.